guys, welcome back to today's video. First off, I just want to start by asking, how do you guys like the intro? So I created an intro and an outro for future videos to come. I worked really hard on it, so I hope you guys love it as much as I do, and it came out so well, so I'm obsessed. Today we're going to be talking about a true crime case. So if you guys remember, in my previous video a couple months back, I announced that I was going to start a series / playlist on Roblox Mysteries with Na. So this is basically where I talk about true crime cases, missing person cases, anything of that sort while I play Roblox. So if you like Roblox and you like true crime, you get 2 in 1, so subscribe for more content. Here's a little backstory. So I've always been obsessed with true crime for as long as I can remember. I listen to it when I'm cooking, showering, driving, and even as I'm sleeping. I'm so intrigued by it as much as you are, so that's why I think you're here today, right? To listen. This is our first true crime case that we are going to be talking about in this series. This is just the first of many more to come. So for our first case today, we're going to be talking about the puzzling disappearance of Brandon Swanson. Brandon Swanson disappeared in May 2008 at the age of 19 after his car got stuck in a ditch in rural Minnesota. While on the phone with his parents for assistance, he suddenly yelled, "Oh shit," before the call disconnected. Despite his parents' effort to locate him and an extensive search by law enforcement, Brandon's whereabouts remain unknown. The mysterious circumstance of his disappearance, the puzzling last words, and lack of trace have fueled speculations and a lot of theories, which we're going to be talking about all the theories later in the video, so stay tuned for that. The case remains open to this day, which begs the unanswered question: what happened to Brandon Swanson that fateful night? This is Roblox Mysteries with Na. I just want to start off by saying that I'm going to be referring to Brandon's parents as Brian and Annette instead of mom and dad, because I feel like that could get confusing. So I think I'm just going to stick by name to make it easier, and so you guys can follow along better. Not better, what the heck am I saying? So you guys can follow along easier. There you go. Brandon Victor Swanson was born on January 30th, 1989 in Marshall, Minnesota, to parents Brian and Annette Swanson. Marshall, Minnesota is a small town in Minnesota, roughly 2 hours and 40 minutes southwest of Minneapolis. In 2007, Brandon graduated from Marshall High School. He was a freshman enrolled in a wind energy program at Minnesota West Community and Technical College in Canby, Minnesota. So I tried to dig for Brandon's childhood, his personality, his upbringing, anything like that, but I could not find anything. And as much as I want to know, I just couldn't find anything. So I guess we're just gonna go with what we know. May 13, 2008 marked the last day of classes for the semester. That evening, Brandon attended 2 parties his friends threw to celebrate. The first party was in Lind, Minnesota, 7 miles away from his home in Marshall. Around 10:30 to 11 p.m., Brandon leaves that party to attend another friend's party in Canby, which is 40 minutes away from Lind. Friends at both parties recalls that Brandon had consumed alcohol, but was not enough to be intoxicated. A little after midnight in the early hours of May 14, 2008, Brandon said goodbye to his friends and leaves the party to head back home in Marshall. Brandon decided instead of taking Highway 68, which was the most direct route, he chose the back roads. We don't know why he decided to choose the back roads, but I would think that it's because he had a little to drink, but he wasn't overly intoxicated, but he could still drive. But it's just that, when you drive, you're not supposed to have, alcohol in your system at all. So I think he just wants to take the back roads, to avoid police. That's just what I think. I'm just assuming, but we will never know for sure. Canby is a straight shot 35 minutes away from his house. Around 1:30 to 1:45 a.m., Brandon crashed his Chevy Lumina sedan into a ditch. Hopefully I'm saying the car right because these car names are too hard to pronounce. Thankfully, he is uninjured in the crash. Unable to get out of the ditch, Brandon calls his parents for help, telling them that he has driven into a ditch in between Lind and Marshall, which was a 30-minute drive from his home. Brandon's parents set out in their pickup truck to locate Brandon. When Brian and Annette arrived at the area where Brandon said he was at, there was no car or any sign of Brandon. Brian asked Brandon if he could see their headlights or honks, which Brian was consistently flashing his headlights and honking, which Brandon said he did not see or hear anything. At this point, Brian and Annette knows that Brandon has the wrong directions. However, Brandon is confident that he provided the right direction to his parents. Frustrated, Brandon says that he is just going to ditch his car and walk towards lights that he sees in the distance, which he thinks is in the town of Lind. It is important to note that Brandon was legally blind in his left eye due to an injury during his childhood, so he had to wear eyeglasses. That night, Brandon left his eyeglasses in the car. Brandon told Brian that they should meet him at the nightclub at Lind, which is a popular meeting spot where they're just going to meet in the parking lot of the nightclub. And Brian and Annette can just send Brandon, can just take Brandon home. Okay? Keep in mind that this whole time, Brandon is still staying on the phone call with Annette. Brandon decides to take a shortcut through some fields. Brandon updated Brian that he passed some fences, gravel roads, cornfields. Brandon said that he could hear running water in the distance. I meant Brian. Brian said that he could hear running water in the distance. At around 2:30 a.m. or at the 47-minute mark of the phone call, Brandon screamed, "Oh shit," before the phone call ended. Brian tried to call him back several times, but Brandon never picked up. At 6:30 a.m., Brian and Annette reported Brandon missing with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department after spending several hours looking for him. Brian and Annette had called his friends to see if they know where he was at. They tried to look for Brandon by driving around the area where Brandon said that he was at, but they could not find anything, so they reported Brandon missing. That morning, officers did not take their concerns seriously and told Brian and Annette that it was not unusual for a 19-year-old college student to stay out all night partying, which kind of freaking pissed me off because literally he crashed his car in the ditch, so that did not make sense because he was coming home anyways. Law enforcement joined the search shortly with search dogs and airplanes, but were unable to locate Brandon or his car. Authorities were able to trace Brandon's cell phone to a cell tower in Porter, Minnesota. On May 15, just one day after Brandon went missing, his car was found in Taunton, approximately 25 minutes away from where he told his parents he was. So when he ditched his car, he thought that he was in Lind, between Lind and Marshall, but he was actually in Taunton. Well, Porter, but his car was found in Taunton. Authorities did not know anything suspicious about Brandon's car. They were unable to confirm which direction Brandon walked often after he said he was going to ditch the car. In his car, the car door was found open and the car key was missing, and his eyeglasses was found in the car that he left, remember? The search for Brandon Swanson was an extensive one. There were hundreds of volunteers, search dogs, and air surveillance. The search dog tracked Brandon's scent, and it led an investigator to the bank of the Yellow Medicine River, 3 miles away from where his car was found at. At the time, investigators thought that Brandon must have fallen in the water and drowned, but with further investigation, found that there was no evidence indicating that Brandon had drowned. Police found no evidence for foul play in Brandon Swanson's disappearance. Brian and Annette leaves their porch lights on every night in hopes that Brandon will return one day, which I think is just so sad because they don't know where their son went. They don't know how he disappeared. He just vanished into thin air. And I don't know if they're still living in the same place to this day, but just to think that every night they leave their porch light on in hopes that he would return, it's just so sad to think about. Like, you wouldn't, as a parent, you wouldn't want to wish this on anybody. The circumstances of his disappearance remains unclear and his case remains unsolved to this day. On July 1st, 2009, Brandon's law went into effect in the state of Minnesota. The law requires authority in Minnesota to conduct a preliminary investigation with no delay once a missing persons report is received. So that is the good that came out of Brandon Swanson's case. It actually changed the way that investigations were handled to this day. So that is basically the case of Brandon Swanson. We don't know anything how he disappeared, where he's at, where did he walk to, why did he scream, oh shit. We have no idea, none of that. Everything just led investigators to dead end. So now we are gonna talk about the theories that the theories of what happened to Brandon Swanson, since there was so many theories that sparked based on his disappearance. Okay, so let's get into some theories. Okay, like I said, the most popular theory is that Brandon may have tripped and fallen into the water and drowned. But again, there was no evidence to suggest this. Annette, his mom, did not even think that he drowned. Even investigator didn't even think that. The second theory, which piggybacks off the first, states that Brandon may have tripped and fell in the water and climbed out to continue walking towards what he thought was land and the lights, and suffered hypothermia because the temperature that night was actually 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which combined with the freezing cold water could have led to hypothermia. So these two theories, so for what I think, I actually don't think that happened. I'm more towards the foul play theory, which we are gonna be talking about now. So the foul play theory speculate that Brandon could have been harmed or abducted by an unknown individual. Okay, y'all staying with me, guys? So there are many, so this is rural Minnesota, right? So there are many farms and farmers nearby. There's just a lot of cornfield, gravel roads, all of that sorts. And a lot of people actually think that Brandon may have seen something that he was not supposed to and was killed by a farmer or an unknown individual. Hence why he exclaimed, oh shit. That's the thing, right? Why did he say, oh shit? I think, oh my God, even to think about just like, why did he say that? Like, I feel like he must have seen something or he must have tripped, okay? But I don't know. It's just, oh my God, just to think about it, it kind of like, it gives me chills and goosebumps. So the next theory is that Brandon may have encountered wildlife in the rural area where he disappeared and that led him to his death. And this theory, personally, I do not believe, okay? I don't think he encountered anything of wildlife of that sort because I think that's just really unlikely. And it's also like one of the most unlikely theory about his case. Let me know if you guys think this, like think he encountered wildlife or any animal. And the last theory is that he may have orchestrated his own disappearance, which again, I think is really, 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 really unlikely because no way he will orchestrate his own disappearance. Like, he had no reason to run away, no reason to disappear. And why would he crash his car if he was going to run away, right? That didn't make sense because you would need your car if you just wanted to run away. Like, why would you run on foot? I mean, like, why would you just disappear on foot, okay, while trying to run away? That just doesn't make sense. But despite all these theories, the mystery of Brandon Swanson's disappearance remains unsolved to this day. Brandon Swanson stands at 5'6", weighing 120 pounds. He has brown hair and blue eyes. He was last seen wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt. If anyone has any information about Brandon Swanson, please call the Lincoln County Sheriff at 507-694-1664. And that concludes the case of Brandon Swanson. If you guys know anything, please do not hesitate to speak up or to call the sheriff's office. I am really excited for future series, for future Roblox Mysteries but not videos to come out. This is just one of the first case that I chose because I live in the state of Minnesota, and this case I heard about this case, and it actually happens in my state, so I wanted to shed light on it as my first case. I actually have never been to Canby or Marshall, Minnesota, but I don't know. I just know that it's just in the rural. I live in the cities, so I don't know. But I want to say thank you so much, guys, for listening to today's video. So that concludes today's video. I think I forgot to give you guys the game name in the beginning, so I'm gonna tell you guys now. So this game is called Super Fun Obby 725 Levels, I believe is what it's called. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching today's video and tuning in to the first episode of Roblox Mysteries with Na. There's gonna be more episodes to come, and if this episode is a little bit wonky, please forgive me because this is my first episode and it's gonna be better in the future. Thank you so much for supporting me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow me on all social media. I'm grateful to have you guys supporting me all the way through, and don't forget to become one of the NanaNation.